What's your advice to somebody who is on the fence about buying a home?
Home values only go up. If you look at it, since any home that was first built to now, it's, gone up a ridiculous amount. So the sooner you jump in the water, the better off you're going to be. I mean, obviously you got to look at your finances. I mean, you don't want to be,
Right.
not able to make the payments.
Yeah.
But if you're in a position where you can actually purchase a home, even if it's not necessarily your dream home, jump in, get started, build some equity in that house, and that can be a stepping stone to the house you want.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Brick by Brick. I am your host, Brad the Brick Critchfield, and thanks for tuning in. I have an awesome guest today, and Travis is a real estate agent, the best one I know. He's a Lakewoodian. He's also the former chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. You say former, you say
past chair.
Immediate past chair of the Chamber of Commerce. He knows real estate, and more specifically, he knows our local real estate really well. So please welcome Travis Jackson.
Thanks for having me on, Brad. Look forward to this conversation with you today.
Glad to have you. We've been talking about it for a little while, and crazy times. So it's not easy, but I know between the two of us, we've been taking extra precaution and doing things right. So and you're still working, right? You're still doing your thing and showing houses, and I mean, the market's booming, right? So you're staying busy.
Yeah. So the market's very active. We're obviously taking precautions and doing a lot more virtual. So not only, virtual tours, virtual showings, meeting with people, instead of like this, we're meeting them, FaceTime, Zoom, all the stuff that pretty much everybody's used to at this point. And then when looking at homes, we limit the number of people in the house. There's precautions taken as far as sanitation, of course, wearing masks and all the things that we're pretty much used to doing in everyday life now.
And why don't you give a little background? How long have you been in real estate? And tell me a little bit about, because you are you're your own man in real estate, right? You have your own office. You're right off of, what is that, South and
Lakewood, yeah.
And Lakewood. Tell me about that.
Okay, so I started out in 2004 in real estate, flipping houses. I had a client when I was a personal trainer who that was his full-time job, was going out finding houses, flipping homes back before all the TV shows. And well, I mean, there's a couple, but nothing like it is now with, all the different TV shows of flipping the house, the Property Brothers, all that type of stuff. So, he was telling me about it. It was something that was interesting to me. I grew up building houses, so I had a pretty good understanding of kind of the nuts and bolts, but not the cells, or kind of like how to find it. So I started out there, did that on the side as I had my corporate career with 24 Hour Fitness for a little over a decade. And then 6 years ago, realized that, corporate has limits, working for yourself doesn't. Stepped away from that and started, doing real estate full time. So for the last 6 years, that's been my sole focus, is residential commercial real estate. And I'm still flipping a couple houses a year.
And I was just talking to you about that. It's funny that I think somebody could fact check me, I think the last 3 guests or 4 guests have all been personal trainers at some point. But you were a personal trainer, but then you're also a manager as well. You were the director of PT, right?
Well, yeah, I started out as a personal trainer. I did that for a year. Then I became the fitness manager, did that for a year. Then I was the district manager for 7 locations. Well, actually, I take that back, for 14 locations in Las Vegas. And then the company reorganized and became a district manager, overseeing all operations for 7 clubs in Las Vegas, then went to Portland for a few years, and then back to California.
And Albert, who was just on the show from Albert's Petite Suites, he said that you were his boss for a while.
Yeah, we had a solid crew at the old Long Beach sport location there off of Spring. Albert was part of that crew.
And do you think, and I have a theory on it, but do you think that there's something to say about people that have been a personal trainer, the good ones I'm talking about, that have a certain drive for entrepreneurship? And why do you think that is, if you do?
Well, I think working in the fitness industry in general kind of builds that, whether you were, sales, a GM of a club, or a personal trainer, because gyms are still kind of a new thing, especially the sales aspect of it, selling personal training, all that. is really, I mean, what started in the 80s, which is not a very long industry. So a lot of it is still very grassroots. You're still going out knocking on doors, or, you know, as a trainer, you're walking up to people and building your own business. There's no business that's handed to you. It's not like a cell phone store where people come in like, I want the new iPhone. People
Right.
are working out, and you got to walk up to them and try to talk them into that. And really, you're building your own business. You're given some of the tools, but it really develops the skill set you need to go out and do other types of business. And I think that's why we see so many people from the fitness industry go on and start other endeavors.
So specifically, I think some of the best real estate people I know were also in PT. What do you think it is? Is there an overlap there of like somebody that would make a good real estate agent that was really good at personal training?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, it's sales in general and working with people. Both cases, you're also a psychologist half the time. So, I mean, if you have the ability to walk up to somebody you don't know and strike up a conversation, you know, that's more than what most people are willing to do. It makes a lot of people uncomfortable. But then from there, being able to get them to do something that they're not comfortable with,
Right.
Which, you know, with personal training, a lot of times people are intimidated. They don't want to do it just because they don't want to look foolish, or they don't know what they're doing. They don't want their friends to wonder what they're doing, which a lot of that comes when you're buying a house. You know,
Right.
There's a lot of fear and pressure from friends and family members, like, oh, why are you buying a house right now? The market's bad, the market's good. And there's a lot of exterior pressure that you get from people who are maybe jealous, you know,
Right.
or they just have their own opinions. Everybody thinks there's a right way to do it. You know, I mean, fitness has more myths than probably anything else out there, but real estate's right behind it.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, the more I think about it, the more I really do see kind of like the parallels. Because I mean, there really is an element of helping somebody achieve their goal, right?
Absolutely.
So like,
And then them freaking out the entire time.
right, right. And there really is that, like, you know, sometimes, you know, the goals that somebody sets for themselves, you know, you can help them get that goal, but then as they're going for that goal, they achieve another one. Because I mean, that's something like you've been helping me with, just like sometimes there's like longer term where like, okay, I think you do something very well where you have a good gauge at like where somebody's at in the process, right? Because not everybody's ready to buy right now. Sometimes, you know, you give me advice 2 years ago that like I'm still like it was advice 2 years ago for the next 2 years, and I followed it pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
and that's where, I mean, when you're looking at buying a house, most people don't just wake up one day like, hey, I'm going to go buy a house tomorrow. It's you start thinking about it, you start doing research. Typically people that contact me over the internet through, say, like Zillow or a Facebook ad, they're usually a year to 2 years out.
Right.
Or somebody walking into an open house, they're 6 months to a year out, because you got to figure these things out as you go. Kind of what can I afford? What am I even supposed to do? How do I find a house? How do I pay for it? What does that look like? Do I need a down payment? So there's a lot of different factors that, one, you need to do your research or have somebody kind of give you that guidance. And then once you know, you're not going to just say, oh, okay, I have $0 in my bank account. I'm ready to go. It's okay. Now I know how much I need to save. I need to know what I need to do with my credit and different things like that. So for most people, they start planning 2 to 3 years out to buy a house.
And then on your side of it, the real estate agent side, there's a huge, it's not just like selling where you're going to close a deal. It's really like not only keeping somebody, I don't want to say accountable, but maybe just like helping somebody keep their goals in focus, which is a parallel. Then also like building a rapport and a trust to where when they are in that position, like you're the person. Because I mean, there's a lot of real estate agents out there, right? But it's a very intimate thing to like have somebody help you to buy a home, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
it's a lot of building that relationship. Like I said, if it takes 2 to 3 years, you're not looking for that quick, oh, okay, hey, I'm going to sell your house and never see you again. You're building a relationship. I become friends with most of my clients because of that, because of the amount of time you spend together, it's for most people the biggest purchase that they make in their life. It's a major milestone. Like, I mean, it's not like having a kid or getting married, but it's up there.
It's up there.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the market right now. What's going on right now? What's happening?
Okay. So when COVID hit, everything kind of froze for about 3 weeks. The feds and everybody were like, what do we need to do here to pretty much keep the wheels from falling off? And what they decided to do was lower our interest rates to where the Fed rates are almost nothing. And then that trickles up to your mortgage rates, which have been 3% or less for the majority of the last, what are we at now? 8 months? Does that sound right?
No,
9 months?
I think it's like 10 months.
10 months?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jesus.
I know.
Anyways, it's a long time now.
So much for that 3 weeks to.
Yeah. No.
Not baiting you.
You're not baiting me into that. But yeah, so, I mean, they lowered the interest rates significantly, which then, I had a lot of people when it first hit, they're like, you know what, Travis, things are crazy. Let's just wait and see what happens. I'm just going to take a break. And, I figured, all right, cool. I got a couple of people who are about to close on their house, and then I'm going to be just kind of sitting on the couch for the next 3 months or so while, we see what happens in the world. Well, instead they dropped the rates to, what it is now, which is pretty much free money. And people said, you know what, we were going to wait, but this is such a significant decrease in my monthly payment that I'm ready to go now. And, that's not just my clients, but that's most of the people that were out there in the market. Now, at the same time, sellers kind of slowed down because they're like, well, I don't know that I want all these people coming to my house right now and possibly spreading this virus. Mm-hmm. So our inventory has been maintaining at about a 1.5 to 2 months worth of inventory, meaning that if everybody who's pre-approved right now bought a house, we'd be sold out in a month.
Yeah.
Which is crazy low. We were floating between 3.5 and 4 months inventory, which they kept saying, oh, our inventory is so low. Our inventory is so low. Normal is 6 months worth of inventory. But we were at 3.5, 4 months since 2015 into 2014. So it was kind of becoming like, well, is this the new normal? Is this kind of what we expect to see? And then this hit, and now it's like, okay, we have 1.5 months worth of inventory. So because of that, that's increased prices. Now, what has kind of balanced it out is that lower interest rate. So if a house, goes up $100,000 right now, your payment's going to be the same as it was on that. So let's say you buy a house at $500,000 2 years ago. Interest rates are 4.5%. You buy a house today at $500,000, $100,000 more, you're going to be making that same exact payment because of the difference in the interest rates. So $100,000 finance is roughly right now about $500 a month.
Okay. So it's more that the sellers really win in that?
Well, both people are winning because you're getting money for free. If you're buying a house, you're getting money for free. They're expecting things to appreciate 7 to 10% this year, and the number of houses on the market to increase this year. So they're expecting a 7% overall increase in sales.
How much does inventory change the average home value? Like if there was a bunch of inventory, would it be a competitive landscape where it would be harder to ask for much more? Or does that not change it as much as?
No, 100%. I mean, supply and demand is, very prevalent in real estate. It's, in most things, the more supply you have, the less you can charge for it because then you have competition.
Right.
Right now, the competition is between the buyers for the little bit of supply that there is.
Right.
If you flip that around, then that's what becomes a buyer's market. And now, buyer's markets only typically last about a year. So when we've seen them historically, a buyer's market lasts a year and then things flip back.
And what's the forecast right now? Because they're not raising interest rates for like the next year, right?
Yeah. So in the first 6 months, they expect them to be flat. They reassess every quarter, but there's no indicators at this point that this year rates are going to go up.
Okay. So what do you foresee in the Lakewood real estate market?
So they're predicting a 7 to 10% increase in value in homes, and as well as a 7% increase in the total volume, so number of homes sold. So people are getting more comfortable. We're getting people vaccinated now. We know what to do as far as protocols to keep people safe. So a lot of people that were going to sell last year kind of held off, and we're going to start seeing some of those houses hit the market, as well as some people have been furloughed, have lost their jobs, have had to change jobs and things like that. So they were going to sell their home last year and buy, say, a bigger house, but they were furloughed, so they weren't able to qualify for a loan. So now as those people are going back to work or finding new work, then they're able to go back to what they needed. They were already outgrowing their house. They had 4 kids in a 2-bedroom house and they were ready for that bigger home. And then they had to kind of pump the brakes because of what happened.
And are there a lot of those homes in Lakewood? I feel like Lakewood has a I mean, Lakewood homes are pretty small, right? So do you find a lot of people like growing out of their homes in Lakewood, or are those people more people that like add on to their homes?
So there's both. You drive down any block, there's plenty of four-bedroom homes. On those, I mean, a lot of them are. I mean, they all started out 2-bed, 1-bath, or 3-bed, 1-bath.
Right.
So, and most of like the Long Beach, same thing. These homes were built in the 30s, 40s, 50s. They didn't build these giant homes back then. Especially, most of the people in the Lakewood, Bellflower, Long Beach area were working for McDonnell Douglas or some of the other areas, which were good middle class jobs. So you have the country club areas and stuff where they built the bigger houses, but for the most part they were building for the masses at the time. And what people wanted back then was the 2-bed, 1-bath, or the 3-bed, 1-bath. Now this was 70 years ago, so we've gone and blown them backwards, blown them up, and made them as big as possible in every direction.
I mean, just the size of a TV back then. I mean, shoot, some of those homes couldn't fit one of the TVs.
Did they have TVs in the 50s?
I don't know. Somebody want. I don't know. Is it a 50s thing?
I have 60s? No idea.
60s maybe.
I don't know.
Black and white TVs in the 60s.
I saw an ad for a color TV the other day, and I was like, oh,
nice. I think Gilligan's Island was in the 60s. I only know that because the one lady just passed.
Yeah.
I read an article. I didn't read an article. I say that. It was a headline on Facebook. That's right.
So you don't even know if it's true.
I don't even know if it's true. Where do you sell? Where do you sell most of your homes? Like, just you specifically. Like, where do you find?
Yeah, 80% of my business is Lakewood, Long Beach.
Okay.
And then the other 20%, you can pretty much throw a dart at Southern California. As people sell their house here, they move out, say they want a bigger house, they go to Corona, Eastvale, Rancho Cucamonga. I have quite a few clients who are in the film industry, so I do a lot in the Valley, Sherman Oaks, Pasadena, up in that area. And, it's a referral business for the most part. So, I do a good job and you tell your friends, which, I mean, most businesses, restaurants, everything work that way, word of mouth. So it kind of grows that way. But yeah, most is right around here.
And do you find a lot of people moving away from Lakewood? And not just I see like a migration, but with a lot of people working remote, and I think companies becoming more relaxed about remote work. And I think a lot of companies will probably keep some people remote because they realize they didn't really need to go in anyway. Do you think that's going to change, kind of like spreading people out a little bit, or not really?
Yeah, I believe so. And then my hope too is that they do realize, okay, we don't need these office spaces that, we're forcing people to come into work, putting them on the freeway, sucking their life away.
Right.
Or they can save that time, have quality time with their family, work from home, get a slightly bigger house so they have a home office, or convert a garage like you have, and, have a nice workplace so that you're not spending all that time on the freeway. In LA, we could spend an hour and a half to 3 hours. There's people that commute from Riverside that spend 4 or 5 hours a day.
It's insane, man.
Well, yeah, it's absolutely crazy. So they can realize that they don't need the office space, convert some of this existing office into condos, and help out with the affordable housing. I think that would be a huge win that could possibly come out of this.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been trying to pitch to anybody that I can, get to hear me is turn these offices into living space. We need more housing.
And could you shed some light on something? I was talking the other day about the, I know they passed the law when it comes to, was it the ADU?
Yes.
That was recent, right? And
so they had two laws. One was passed it went into effect in 2018, which allowed one ADU or granny flat up to 800 square feet on your lot, as long as it's no more than half the size of your house. So if you have 1,000 square foot house, you can only do a 500 square foot ADU.
That was the law.
That was the law for 2018. In 2020, they updated that to allow two. So they now allow an ADU and a mini ADU, which is pretty much half the size of the other ADU.
Interesting. So just help my small brain here. So if somebody has like a typical Lakewood home's like 1,400 square feet?
Yeah.
So they have a 1,400 square feet and they want to do another unit, so they can put like a 700 square foot unit in the back.
Yeah, they can convert their garage. They can go on top of the garage or to the side of the garage.
But it's a livable space.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, a space all on its own.
So, and now they can do the 700. Now they can do it. 350 is too small, right?
Yeah. 350 you could still make work. 350, 400.
And so
It's no more than 600 square feet, I believe, is for the mini one.
And wasn't there also something like it could like go, it used to be like 10 feet from like your resident line, your property line. Now it's like 2 feet. It's like
yeah, there's setbacks as far as where you need to be so that you're not building right on your neighbor's property right up. And each city's a little different with that, but yeah, it's definitely relaxed.
And now in Lakewood, I remember hearing there were some restrictions with parking, right? Like Lakewood was more restrictive with what you can build because of parking, but now that's not a thing, right?
You have to check with them, but for the most part, that's been relaxed. I mean, there's ample parking in Lakewood because you have a driveway and you have street parking. There just has to be, one space for that car for the added.
Yeah.
But most of the driveways in Lakewood, can accommodate that without even the street parking.
Sometimes the driveways are bigger than the house in Lakewood. What do you look forward to this year? It's 2021. Is it just getting back to normal, or do you have some? I didn't know you still flip houses too.
Yeah.
So what are you going to lean in towards? Like, where's the opportunity 2021 when it comes to real estate, or when it comes to just like where you're going to invest your time to be productive?
Well, like I was saying, we're going to see more sales this year than we saw last year. So we expect the market to pick up as far as, the volume of sales, meaning that there's going to be more homes sold by the end of 2021 than what was sold in 2020. Mm-hmm. So realistically, the focus is same as it always is, cultivating those client relationships and helping them, either find their new home or sell their existing home.
What's your advice to somebody who is on the fence about buying a home?
Home values only go up. If you look at it, since any home that was first built to now, it's, gone up a ridiculous amount. So the sooner you jump in the water, the better off you're going to be. I mean, obviously you got to look at your finances. I mean, you don't want to be,
right.
not able to make the payments. Yeah. But if you're in a position where you can actually purchase a home, even if it's not necessarily your dream home, jump in, get started, build some equity in that house, and that can be a stepping stone to the house you want. Sometimes it might take 2 or 3 or 4 homes to get you to that house that is your dream home as you build equity over the years. But if you get in now, then you're starting to build up that equity as the value goes up. You're able to trade up for homes and keep your payments close to the same. And right now, like I was saying, the interest rates are so low that there's, really nothing holding you back. You might miss out on a house or two. Just don't get discouraged and keep pushing forward and remembering what your end goal is.
See, now I feel like you're talking to me.
Yeah. Well, I'll put it in a personal trainer for you. So it's like, say you want to lose 100 pounds. You're not going to get that done in a year, and you're going to hit setbacks.
Right.
You're going to go out and bench for a week or two, and you're going to gain 10 pounds. And that's going to be frustrating, but you got to have somebody.
Really talking to me.
You got to have somebody to keep you on track and get you to where you want to be.
Right.
And purchasing a home is the same. You're going to go out, you're going to fall in love with a home. You're going to have everything, you've worked on it for 2 or 3 years to get ready, to do so. And someone's going to outbid you, or the sellers are just going to pick somebody else for whatever reason. And that's going to be discouraging and heartbreaking because you already imagined your entire life in that house. Right. And you just got to pick yourself up and keep going.
Right. So you do a lot in the community. Like, you're not, somebody who just does real estate. So I already mentioned your involvement at the chamber. But what do you get out of it? Being a real estate agent who's involved in the community, I'm going to guess that it's not, there's obviously some networking going on, but it's also, I think you get a deeper understanding of the area and you really understand the climate. And so I'm guessing that probably helps when it comes to talking to people that want to move into the area, because you really become a representation of the area that you're selling in, right? So what do you get out of being involved in the community in the ways that you do?
So it's the way to give back first and foremost and help people start their businesses, like what we started doing with the city of Lakewood with the business development and helping the new businesses get started. Being that my wife owns a business in the city as well. Yeah. And we had to go through there was no guidance at that point, and like, how do you start your business? And it was frustrating working with the city, frankly. So that's why, this was formed, was like, okay, here's the steps you need. Here's the people you need to talk to start up a business. So that's very rewarding. Beyond that, I'm able to make connections with people who I can refer my clients to, whether it's to help grow a business like a restaurant. But more importantly, my clients are always looking, hey, I need a roofer, I need an electrician, I need home security or whatever it is. And it helps me build that network of people that I actually know and trust that I can refer over to them. And yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of residual business, but for the most part, you don't meet somebody once at a mixer and they're like, oh yeah, I want to buy a house. You can sell me a house. That's not how real estate works.
Has it ever worked that way? I mean, like, what's like the oddest, like, I guess sell you've ever had? Like, has that ever happened where someone was like, hey, found your card, want to buy a house? Like, does that ever happen?
I've had internet leads like that where I've gone out and shown them a house and they bought the first house.
Yeah.
Or they're like, they found the house and then they found me online and they're like, hey, I need somebody. So that's cool. I mean, that's maybe one a year. So definitely don't bank on those.
Yeah. And what's the biggest house you've sold, or like the most interesting house you've sold? You've done some up north in you said the Burbank area, up there for
Burbank, Pasadena. There's been some cool. I like Spanish style homes. There's been some cool ones of those. Some cool craftsman homes. I mean, that's one thing I like about Long Beach, and Pasadena is very similar. Is a lot of the homes were built in the 20s and 30s, and they had a lot more style and flair back then than homes that are built now are pretty dry, cookie cutter, unless you're spending $2-3 million to get something really unique. But for the most part, you go out to the new communities, Corona, well, I guess they're not really new anymore. That's like the 80s, but Eastville, it's pretty much the same house over and over and over again.
Right. And what do you when you get a listing, like, what is the one thing that you see like, okay, that's huge, like something to have? Is it like because a pool can go either way, right?
Yeah, some people do not want a pool.
Yeah.
So like right now people want an open floor plan.
Right.
So that's that's the number one seller right now, is if you have that connected living room to the kitchen, den, or den to the kitchen, just that. So the kitchen's not just a little room,
right.
In the 50s, when a lot of the homes around here were built, or before, it was, every single room was its own individual room, the dining room, the kitchen, all that. And, times were different. The women were in the kitchen, the men were in the living room, the kids were, outside or whatnot. And they had their own little section. Now everybody's together.
Well, sounds like my childhood, but go ahead.
Yeah. So now everybody wants to be together. They want to be connected. And that open floor plan is definitely, the number one thing that I get requested.
So I guess that might even answer this question, but what's your one advice to sellers? Like what's the one thing somebody can do to their house to right off the bat increase the value and increase like how fast it's going to go?
Well, I mean, open floor plan is something that you're not going to do to sell. You're not going to get the money back because you're tearing down walls and all that.
Okay.
The two easiest things that I tell people when you're looking to buy a house or you're looking to sell a house that make the biggest difference is paint and flooring.
Okay.
Paint can be super cheap if you want to do it yourself. Personally, I hate painting. I'll pay somebody to do it.
Oh yeah.
I absolutely hate it. But you can get that done very cheap. So even if you're looking at a house and you're like, well, I like it, but the wall, it's dark in here, come in, fresh coat of white paint or, a light color will brighten up the place, make it look like a new home. And then, ripping out old nasty carpet, throwing in, it's very distracting, whatever that is you're doing.
I just reset the camera. I tried to do it on the slide. That's why I had the camera on.
That's why I called you out. I'm like,
Jeez.
You expect me to talk while I'm wondering what you're doing there.
Let me work my movie magic over here.
Sorry. I know you don't have your assistant with you today.
Trying to keep it light in here.
Yeah. But yeah, and then flooring, you can put in the new vinyl flooring or like the fake wood flooring is fairly cheap, and it goes in, you can get it done in 2 or 3 days, and it just completely changes the entire house.
Okay. And yeah. What do you let's see, what's another good real estate question? How about a question about a question? What question do you get all the time?
How much do I need to put down? That's probably the most common. Or what do I need? All right, how much do I need to put down, and then what credit do I need to be able to get approved for a loan? So as far as down payment,
start with the down payment.
Down payment, if you're a vet, you don't need to put anything down, which is an awesome thing that we do for our veterans. For the rest of us that didn't serve, you can get started with 3% down. So at a $600,000 house, you need $18,000 down, and then you're going to need closing costs. Right now, you're not going to be able to get the seller to pay for the closing costs because it's too competitive. Closing costs are going to be about 2 to 3% of the purchase price as well.
Right.
So you want to be prepared for that on top of the 3% down.
So is it, I mean, I guess it's just the market, right? But it definitely feels like I understand like low interest rates, and I understand like, there's never going to be a perfect time, but it does kind of feel like the buyer like really doesn't, I mean, it's so competitive that it's just
So the market's been competitive since 2015. And I had people in 2015, I'm going to wait. And then they're finally, okay, I'm ready to go this year, 5 years later.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, cool. House prices have doubled. You kept saying the whole prices are going to come down, and you kept waiting. And now that house that we first talked about you buying is worth double.
Right.
So, there's a saying in real estate, the best time to buy a house was 20 years ago.
Right.
Second best time is today.
Right. But I mean, and I understand that.
You don't though, because you got that confused look and you're trying to argue it.
No, but
so
you would agree that like there's probably a better time than other times, right?
How so?
So like when 2008.
Yes.
Right.
So here's the question. Are you buying the house to sell it in 2 years, in 3 years? Or are you buying it to live in?
Right.
That's
right.
where that would come in.
So you would so the advice
So
there
if you
would
bought
be,
in 2008, you're still up. You not only have you made payments on it for 12 years, so you only have 18 years left on it until you own it outright. So you've been paying down.
So the rationale is it's not a matter of if you win, it's a matter of how much.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Either way, you're going to win.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, over time, everything goes up. Every 20 years, the cost of living doubles. So that means anything that costs $500,000 a day will be $1 million in 20 years.
Right.
And 20 years after that, it'll be $2 million. And that's just 4% inflation that has been around since, we've had the Treasury Department.
Do you think anything with a moratorium on evictions, are you like, how does that change things, or what do you think is going to happen there?
We could see, there's the moratorium on evictions, but there's also the ability for those same landlords who don't own their homes outright or their rental properties outright to go ahead and talk with a mortgage company and have their payments delayed, added to the end of their mortgage, and do different things like that. So yeah, some of them might end up either just selling their properties off because they don't want to deal with it. Maybe some might come into a foreclosure situation, but the fact is that most people have 10% or more equity in their homes right now. Right. I believe the last study I said 93% of Americans have 7% or more equity in their house. So they're not going to get foreclosed on and cause a drop. If you can sell it and take, 7% out, or more, that's just at least 7% and 93%. Most have, 10 to 20% equity. That's a good chunk of change. You're just going to sell that house to somebody else that's better positioned to take on,
But do you think there'll be an increase? Inventory will increase, right?
Yeah. And that's why we're saying we're looking at it like a 7% increase in sales.
Okay.
But, I haven't talked to a landlord yet that is like, no, I'm selling my properties.
So I talked to one that was it was more of a concern of like having renters. So is that a thing where I know it's very hard to get renters out, right?
Correct. Yeah. California
Right.
keeps getting tougher. Now, I have talked to people who have moved their rental business to other states, just because California can be very challenging.
Yeah. And the rationale there was is that you play footsies with me one more time? Is it easier to get rid of renters that are not paying if you sell the property? Is that a thing, or is that not really a thing?
Not really, no.
Okay.
Because they're still protected.
Are they? So, because I was like, well, maybe it's because like the new owner doesn't have a contract with the renter. Maybe.
No, they still do. So, I mean, you'd essentially you're paying them relocation fees and stuff like that. So that's some of the new laws is you're going to be, essentially paying them damages because you're taking their house from them.
Wow. So even if they're not paying.
So, yeah, well, that's different. Well, so if they're not paying, you have a little bit more leniency depending on, because of COVID, if they filed the necessary paperwork and sent you the letters, saying, hey, I lost my job due to COVID, then yeah, you can't get them out. Now, if they were not paying before COVID, then no, you can get them out.
So who is it really the homeowners that really get screwed in the end here? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sympathetic that I think everybody's getting screwed.
Yeah,
at some point. But I think that it's much easier to dismiss how crappy it is to be the owner.
Yeah.
I mean, just like it is with business, right? It's like sometimes, we forget like, the business owner is really the one who's paying a huge price too. It's not just the people that can't go to work. It's the person that's not gonna be able to open the business, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's tough for everybody, but end of the day, the renters don't have money invested in that home that they're losing.
Right.
The landlord, they do, and who knows how long they've had that house. If they just bought a year or two ago and they're like, man, now I'm coming out of pocket every month.
Yeah.
It's a scary thing. And there's not really a good solution at this point for them. What was that noise?
As a comment.
Oh.
Yeah, I should probably warn you about the different noises that are going to pop into your ear. They're really loud. So yeah, that's something that's because that's going to be up in like what 2 months, or you think they're just going to keep that going?
Yeah, they just extended it. It was supposed to be up end of December, and I think they extended it for 2 more months was the last I heard. And then it's different on the commercial side of things too. This is strictly for tenants who are, renting a house that they live in. The commercial, there is some flexibility there, but it's a little bit rougher.
So is it that, because when the moratorium ends, it's still people will owe the back rent, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And they have to work out some sort of payment plan.
And so it's really just like up to that negotiation between landlord and renter, what that plan is, or is it like a 6 months to pay back thing?
I think it's a 14 months, like spread out over 14 months was the last thing I read, I believe.
Wow. So
because it's a tall order if you're 6 months behind to come up with that type of money when you first get back to work.
So is it going to be a thing where, I mean, I know you're not a fortune teller, but it seems like the loophole would be for renters to just leave, not pay it back, and start fresh somewhere else? Or do you think that there's a contractual obligation there? But are they really? I don't know what that thing was.
Yeah, I believe that there's some legal aspects to that, but I mean, the same as like someone not paying, you'll have an eviction on your record and go against your credit and things like that. But yeah, you could pretty much kind of play the system if you're a dirtbag.
Yeah, man. And do you think people are really concerned about that over the next 6 months, year, or do you think that's just something that's like there's going to be some type of balancing agent there in the market? Because I feel like the market's pretty like strong in that very homeostatic. Like there's always something to like compensate.
Yeah, it seems like, I mean, for the most part, people aren't taking advantage of the situation. The people that can pay are paying, and working out what they can. And the same going with people with their mortgages and the banks. When it first hit, they're like, hey, you can contact the mortgage and have your payments, put to the side, which, a lot of people did. I have some clients that were in different industries that just 100% shut down.
Right.
And then you're able to tack that on to the end. But for the people that took advantage of that, 95% of them have already gone through a loan modification or are back on track. Only 5% of the people that delayed their payments are at risk of foreclosure on the last report.
That's insane.
Yeah, so it's surprising like how well people are managing through this mess.
Yeah, it almost doesn't make sense. Like the because a lot of the same people probably still are either not working or underemployed at this point.
Yeah.
But I guess like with like the unemployment, like the extra, there's been a lot of stimulus in different ways for employees, because you've dealt with this not only with your business, but also, you know, with the salon as well, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So, I mean, there have been, I mean, the stimulus that they've done to this point is what do they call it? A Band-Aid on a bullet hole.
Right.
It's, a little bit to help the bleeding, but it's nothing that can possibly make up for, it's maybe like 1 month's worth of income.
Right.
For, 8 months of being shut down.
Right.
So it helps a little bit when keeping some people in. And I mean, that's what you see, on the news every day is how it's decimating small business.
And what would you like to see governmental bodies do? Like, what would you like to see the state do? I mean, I know the federal government's, doing their thing with interest rates and, I guess a stimulus here and there, I guess. But what would you like to see the state do for small businesses and like the communities in general? Like, what do you think needs to happen?
I mean, it's
a pretty broad question.
Yeah,
but
it's tough because nobody's ever gone through this before to know how to do it, and everybody's, trying their best. Excuse me. I think they need safety protocols in place that people can meet and open their businesses one way or another. I think just shutting down certain businesses while allowing others to stay open makes no sense at all. Obviously I'm very sensitive to the salon industry because, my wife owns a salon. My
dad's a barber. This is the first time he hasn't gone to work in forever, and it's depressing.
And they are one of the few industries that are certified and have to pass a state bar test on cleanliness, on sanitation.
It's insane.
And to close them down while you got people shoulder to shoulder at Walmart and Costco, just those types of things are very frustrating. And it's really hurting the small business while big business is staying open. And frankly, a lot of it comes down to money. I mean, real estate was deemed non-essential. We have a huge lobbying group. 2 weeks later, we're essential.
Right.
And, I think a lot of it comes down to that. The salons, they don't have a lobbying group.
Yeah. Gyms,
yeah.
they probably have one or two. Right?
No.
They don't have a dude. They have like one dude that they kind of hire on the side.
like
a park trainer, but he's like a lobbyist.
The gym industry is like a drop in a bucket compared to the salon and beauty industry. I mean, if you look at the number of gyms out there compared to nail salons, hair salons, there's
and I've always
not
had
even
this
a comparison.
Thought with even bigger corporate gyms, I just feel like they're so like debt finance, and like they don't mind just changing their name every few years anyway. So I feel like they're not. I feel like they're not as vested in it as other places. Like, I feel for. I know this one really good small gym that closed down. Like smaller gyms are just decimated.
Yeah.
And then you think of places like indoor playgrounds, like Kidstown. They don't have like a lobbyist up there. No one's going up there for indoor playgrounds. Yeah. There's like one, every few cities, and it just like zero like business, right?
And that's what, as being part of the Chamber of Commerce, we work with those small businesses and help them grow and develop. And there's been little to no help, no path to here's how you can open or anything like that. Right. So that's really, and it's mainly just our state and a couple others that are going at the plan this way. I guess time will only tell who was right, but I mean, right now we're the epicenter for this thing.
Well, I think it's one of those things where, and I don't mean to get too political with it, but from a Chamber of Commerce angle, I think it's something that, we did the full on shutdown. We did shut down all these businesses. We did put us in this situation, and that didn't stop the wave from coming. So I think that that's telling in itself, and doing it again, I don't know what that's doing, but I think we didn't give small businesses the opportunity to rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
And to, utilize their resources in a way that they could be innovative and make it work and still be safe and just trust them to take the precautions and then also have some oversight and implement some accountability. Instead, we said nothing. And what we did was, I'm echoing what you're saying. We let other people pick winners and losers in our economy. And it's not right. Like the fact that some places that do have lobbyists were deemed essential and fine to operate, while other places, like the mom and pop's hardware store comes to mind, like they can't operate. But Home Depot's,
yeah,
packed or
record sales. Yeah. Same with, the grocery store has record sales and they don't want to pay their employees.
Amazon's done very well throughout this whole thing. But
so back to the things that what I'd like to see from the state, probably the number one thing they could do is give us the information from the contact tracing and base their shutdowns off of that.
Right.
If they said, hey, salons are 10% of the problem, okay, I get it. But if you say, hey, there's nothing coming from this, then open it up. And, but we're not being shared that information. That's probably the most frustrating.
Right.
When you're dealing with a small business being like, oh, you're shut down. Well, why am I shut down when,
Right.
I mean, it seems like most of the breakouts that we've been seeing on the news lately are all in grocery stores.
Right. Grocery stores. And I'm sure whenever, I guess Walmart is kind of a grocery store now, huh?
That's how they got deemed essential.
Yeah. It's just insane on so many levels. And that's the same thing with the restaurants. It's like it couldn't just be restaurants indoors, then it was outdoors, then it was like, all together. But yeah, then the argument with gyms as far as like, studies showing like when it comes to health, like to shut down places that, have to, go through, like they are regulated with like their sanitation measures and stuff, or gyms that are there to help people get healthy, like let them put the measures in place, because I guarantee people not working out, people only eating fast food and just
drinking.
Yeah. And drinking like crazy. I think we're going to be dealing with this for the next 10 years just on a health thing. So I think that there's probably opportunity for fitness industries to really thrive over the next 10 years, because I think this is the first time in a long time, or perhaps ever, that a lot of people are starting to realize that their health really does matter, and that when this thing happens, and you look at the numbers, the people that are exercising, the people that are relatively fit and do take care of their bodies, they're doing a lot better. And I think that that needs to be in the forefront of the whole conversation, as far as like this is a health crisis, not just a virus outbreak. Yeah,
absolutely.
There's my rant. I told you I wasn't going to do it. But so what do people need to know about you, and who needs to come talk to you?
Well, as far as who needs to come talk to me, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer to that, no matter where you're at in your journey.
Okay.
I mean, if buying a house at some point in your life is your goal, or selling your house at some point in your life is your goal, there's no reason not to talk to me. I can help. Like you were saying, we talked 2 years ago, and I can draw out a roadmap for you, tell you what you need to achieve, and then hold you accountable if you want. You want me to call you once a month and say, hey, did you save this? Did you pay this off? Did you work on your credit? No problem. I have no problem doing that, because I'm in it for the long run. I say I'm your realtor for life. So it's not, hey, you can't buy a house today, kick bricks.
Right.
It's okay. Let's figure out how to get you in a house. Or you want to sell a house? Cool. Why do you want to sell it? Where do you want to go? What do we need to do to make that happen?
Right.
I do commercial as well. So, if there's people watching that, have a business that they need to relocate, or they're looking to get rid of something, that's something I can help with. And now I forgot what the first question was.
You covered it. It's fine.
No two-parters.
So
one at a time.
I know, one at a time.
Or write it down.
We'll do it in post. So with commercials, do you think it's kind of the same landscape, or do you think that there's going to be even more inventory out there as this kind of opens up?
So there was, like they said, it was 1% inventory before all this. There was like nothing available.
Yeah.
It was very,
Dude,
you were looking for a new spot.
I was in the middle of
gym, and it's just impossible to find anything. So now, I mean, we're seeing it. We're seeing businesses shut down.
Yeah.
And we've talked about relocating the salon into a bigger place. So we're like, well, let's kind of sit around and see kind of what opens up.
Nice.
because, you know, I do foresee on the commercial side more inventory. And that's where I said, you know, a lot of office buildings, I think they're not going to renew their lease.
Right. And I mean, I was in the middle of negotiation when that happened. And
Yeah. Aren't you glad you didn't sign?
dude, I was like within maybe a couple of days before the actual shutdown order, I was making a video to send to the owner, like not the management company, but the owner, to explain like the business and what we do for the community, and basically pleading to just not raise the rent.
Yeah.
He wanted to raise it like pretty significantly, like more than just like the 3% that I was used to. And I was like, dude, I don't know I think they might shut us down. I don't feel comfortable signing another 3 years at an increased rate. You know, let's talk about it. And the best they could do was they'll give me like half rent for 2 months. And I was like, man, but with the increase, with more increase than originally. They basically just tagged it on.
Yeah, they're like,
it was crazy.
They just played with the numbers.
So
like buying a used car.
Yeah, and so I couldn't do it, man. So I just did, and their whole thing, and this is every lease negotiation, every extension was always, well, you know, we have people that have been asking to see the place, so if you don't want to do it, basically, sign or get out the way.
Yeah.
Right. And I kind of called their bluff, and I was like, all right, I'm out. And I drive by that place every once in a while, it's still empty. And
I mean, the timing was, you know, magnificent for you. Because
Yeah.
I mean, if you would have signed it, it'd be empty now too, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just because you couldn't operate for the last 10 months.
Yeah. I mean, even because the overhead was about $4,000 just for the lease. It would have been about $4,000 with that increase. Dude, there's no way, man. 10 months of that? No way.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. Especially with being shut down. And so that's why I really, a lot of businesses, like a lot of small gyms, like they're still going in there.
Oh yeah. No,
Yeah.
I mean, you drive around town
Crunch
now.
never even.
Yeah, you drive around town now and you see papered windows all
Yeah.
over. Anything that's supposed to be shut down, the windows are papered and they're open.
And I'm sympathetic to that just because
you have to.
What's the alternative?
Yeah, I mean, they're not. You know, if you're a business owner, you know, and you're not paying yourself, the unemployment's not really there because you're operating as a business, not as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're a corporation, and then on top of that, you know, you got employees that you're trying to pay and everything else. It's a very tough situation.
It's really tough. And again, I guess more sympathetic to that industry because I feel that people, you know, I read another article headline one time. Didn't read the article, but it basically had some stat on the rate of infection with people that exercise daily, and just the immune basically the boost in your immune system from exercising daily. And
that's for like any disease,
right?
You know, that's always been the case. Is if you exercise, you're healthier, and healthier people get less
it was actually
problems.
And it was interesting because it was specific to COVID, and the fact that people that were exposed to COVID that exercised that the day of exposure were 5 times less likely to actually be symptomatic, which was interesting. But then again, I'm an idiot, and I just read the headline. You would think if that didn't
and then they all died the next day.
Yeah. I'm like, well, I didn't say what happened on page 2. Yeah. Travis, thank you so much for coming in here and doing this, and I hope we can do it again soon. And why don't you let everyone know just where they could find you if they have questions, if they're going to reach out and contact you.
Okay. Yeah, you can find my name on Facebook since that's where we're at right now. You tagged me, right? Or you're going to tag me?
I did a quick. That was very nice of you. So Travis was rushing me.
Well, when you start 15 minutes late.
He's very impatient. So he was rushing me, so I didn't tag you.
So one thing, I will always be on time if you work with me. Something to know, which I now know with Brad.
I understand what the tone is saying right now, just so you guys know.
Yeah. So Brad will eventually tag me. So you can find me, Travis Jackson. My number is 310-606-0918. My phone's always on. Give me a call, shoot me a text. You can put in the comments, you can put my I don't have a keyboard, so you can put my contact info.
Okay, I'll put it in there.
Thank you, sir.
I'll get around to it.
All right. Yeah.
I'll be 15 minutes after I say I'm going to do it. I'm taking care of Mandy.
Yes. I'm sympathetic to that.
It's great that I'm even out here, man.
I'm pretty sure that's why you're out here.
I'm not going to say anything about it. If the politics don't get me in trouble that well. Thank you guys very much for tuning in and checking it out. Contact Travis, ask questions. He's great to work with. He's been helpful for me, and I hope you guys will utilize him as well. Wealth of information, and do reach out. Thank you for watching. Share it. Send it to somebody that needs to hear this information, and I will talk to you guys next time. Take care.